make sure you go ahead and check out the website. You can find this content present there. If you like to review it and read it, share it, I encourage you to do so. So today we're talking about visible trust. All right. Question is the silent deals, right? The silent reason that deals stall. Silent reasons deals stall. So just to keep it simple, we're just going to go straight from the site. The reluctance of many feel to talk about themselves, right? Or their own products on LinkedIn, for example. It often comes from a deeper insecurity or fear that self-promotion will expose weakness and or attract criticism, right? Like if you're familiar with this, um, if you're on LinkedIn or you're on Alignable is the worst at it. They didn't used to be that way, but they really began to suck after they, wanted the nickel and dime, and the culture just terrible there. But if you know this, right? LinkedIn, insecurities on promoting themselves and their products. So what happens is, from a visual standpoint and observation, you see people regurgitating a lot of the same information. It's part of why this happens this way. They get a quote and they're talking about anything and everything Fisher Price except for who they are and what they do. And we're going to dive into the sickness, the mental illness that causes that, not only on LinkedIn platforms, alignable platforms, but it trickles down into your community, into your workplace, because those who haven't discovered it yet may not realize that the social media actually programs the mentality of the real world. Think about that for a moment. The average mindset has been beaten into obeying rules. So if they're spending most of their time on social medias, given these rules of engagement, they bleed over into everyday life in the real world for them. They take it into their job and tell you how you shouldn't say this or shouldn't think that. The job destroys them mentally, breaks them. They don't like it, but they feel like they have to keep going because of a paycheck. So they bring home the trauma to their family, their spouse, their kids. Then the spouse goes into work after having a bad day because this person's programmed to be something that they're not, and they don't like it, and they can't voice it or make the change. So they take it out on those around them. So then the spouse goes into work and bleeds, and the youth go into the school systems and the community and bleeds, and the domino effect continues. So let's get into this. The reluctance many feel to talk about themselves or their products on LinkedIn, for example, often comes from deeper insecurity or fear that self-promotion will expose weakness or attract criticism. So the cheap, easy, quick weakness defaults to relationship-based selling, right? That relies on emotion. rather than demanding respect through proven performance and transparency. Now, think about what that does to the community. Mr. or Mrs. Popularity becomes who's driving your innovation. And that sounds good at first, until you realize most of society is too busy worried about how you made them feel, right? They don't care what you try to do for them. They don't care how much you can benefit them or how much you can help them. They're more concerned with how you make me feel. The way you make me feel, right? It didn't say the way you save the day. No, so the people who can actually save the day, the true innovators, the true thought leaderships, right? They're going to hurt feelings. They're going to break some eggs, right? And that's uncomfortable for these weak ass mindsets. So what happens is they avoid the true fixes in society and in your corporations and your businesses for the comfort of the way you make me feel. And you wonder why everything around you sucks. Right? Let's get back into this. But think about that. Hold on to that for a moment. And you know, I did some t-shirts and some stuff for them in the past. We have some history. Martin Brossman wrote a great exhibit on relationship marketing. So look him up on LinkedIn. He's on Alignable too. You can Google, and check out his book. So this emotional, those that's been with me for a while know that the last emotions, make me vomit, right? Because to me, it's the destruction of everything we've seen falling around us. Again, relationships, driving things. It's a terrible situation. But let's go into this. The emotional approach to trust creates risk. See, circles build belief based on feeling rather than visible outcomes. That enables poor quality and actually erodes credibility over time. Just like the connect you had with your ex. See, because they're based on emotions and relationships, right? And the truth comes in and makes them feel, oh my God, right? They fear, many of them, sharing the truth with others because they feel like if I'm the source of their pain by bringing in this innovation, it's going to be a reflection of me. So they'll go get the weak ass motherfucker to come and befriend you because that's going to be all warm and fuzzy for you inside. As the dollar continues to inflate and your purchasing power continues to decrease and you have nothing to show for it. What you could do in 40 hours, you now need to do 80, 90 because people were worried about how it sounded, how they felt, instead of what the outcome was going to be at the workplace, in your community, and for your future generations. Remember that about the way you make me feel, motherfuckers. They most likely are not really your friends. So, whether they know it or not, okay? Because lawfully, it's not legal advice for entertainment purposes, but an injury is defined as once the person realizes they are injured. It doesn't mean the damage ain't been being done to you for the last 2 decades. It just means that, consider the word minority actually means childlike mind. It just means that the minorities of the topic haven't realized they're being killed slowly by 1,000 cuts from the people that make them feel so good. And because it's such a subtle death over an extended period of time, they'll endure it rather than the perceived pain, the perceived rejection of their prior beliefs and thought processes of entertaining the truth today for the 3, 6, or 9 months it may take to actually complete a change at a corporate level, at an enterprise level. But most people haven't led enterprise change. They've only led their neighbor to the corner store. So they don't really understand that they don't know what they don't know. And again, when you offer them the opportunity of value of the truth, you hurt their feelings. So again, this emotional approach to trust creates risk. Circles build belief based on feeling rather than visible outcomes. That enables poor quality and erodes credibility over time, just like your ex. Unchecked sentiment has fueled broader U.S. economic cracks, as I detailed in the last article and live video, Made in the USA Decline. So the entry-level roots of trust erosion at the corporate level, the silent reason deals stall begins with the individual weakness. We can't, like, whatever it is that your complaint is, whether it's your workplace, whether it's the government, whether it's what you see on your Facebook scroll, you got to start with it being user error. You got to blame yourself first. You got to take ownership. So at the corporate level, the silent reason deals stall begins with individual weakness. Entry-level employees staying quiet about small problems, systemic flaws, even ethical concerns, as I defined for DEI expert Teresa Turner and charged her with translating my American standards of entry for U.S. refugees, artists, neighbors, and coworkers alike. Because those that know, we're building America to replace the United States. It's no secret. I'm offering you an option for everything you've complained about your entire life. I didn't draw the line in the sand, but will you take the step across it? Or do you just want to continue in your pain and misery? That's what you got to ask yourself. Because at the corporate level, which is the same as at your entry-level relationships, right? Because many people are so cheap with it. All right. So at the corporate level, the silent reason deals stall begins with individual weakness. Entry-level employees staying quiet about small problems, systemic flaws, or ethical concerns, like why many people are in relationships simply to pay the rent, but they don't really want to go home to them. So they call you every other week talking about, let's have girls night. Yo, let's have guys night. Oh man, I'm so glad I got out the house because I'm tired of being there. Why? Why are you in an environment why did you work so hard to build something that you don't want to experience? Why are you around people that you can't wait to get away from? Silence builds invisible cracks in trust that eventually escalates to an avalanche, right? The right to remain silent becomes a double-edged sword. And in corporate settings, it fosters passive risk avoidance, where employees don't speak up when trust is at stake. Actually, a lot of times they're demonized for presenting an option in advance of a situation. Right? How many of y'all out here talking about y'all got some sort of book like a Bible or it's the equivalent, and you're talking about prophets and all of this stuff, and then the person that's sitting next to you at your job that puts their hand up in the meeting saying we need to do something about this. I remember at 3M years in advance, maybe 5 years in advance, because I was watching this, when everybody else was, I don't know, watching American Idol. And I said, hey, the plant's doing really well. However, most of our production, most of our profit comes from what we ship to Asia, which is part of why I actually was proud to be in that position, because even though it's not our GDP, it was the United States GDP. What we export helps balance the trade deficit. So if I'm in a position where I'm contributing value to balancing the trade deficit, it was something in the back of my mind I could feel good about during my voluntary slavery. However, I kept warning that, there's going to be a conflict growing from between now and then with China and Asia and Russia. And how are we changing the attitude of our sales team to leverage destinations beyond or in lieu of Asia? Because once it pops off, supply chains will be disrupted, if nothing else. Not to mention that we don't have a guarantee that they're going to continue to shop with the people they're at war with in some way, shape, or form, long before COVID happened. And it was like, okay. So I told them, if you ever see me leave, it'll be time to go. And I left in April of the year that I left. April, May, June, July, August, 3M began a 67% loss, avalanche of stock value. The stock of 3M collapsed 4 months after I left, 67%. That's kind of the thing that happens with me. When I'm around, I feel like the Most High makes everything sound. When I leave, I guess the Most High sends repercussions. Because you should have listened to me. As Jay-Z says, my presence is charity. Not from me, but from the Most High. So look at these situations for those who know tarot. Maybe this is a tower moment, right? Let's continue. The right to remain silent becomes a double-edged sword. In corporate settings, it fosters passive risk, as we mentioned, avoidance, where employees don't speak up when trust is at stake. So the patterns at play here are powerlessness breeds silence. Powerlessness breeds silence. You know, we've done a whole segment on the channel about what I call the humble, the Be Humble campaign. Y'all, again, it feels good to say be humble. It feels good. Everybody's doing it like crack in the 80s, right? But you don't know what the spell is. I mean, you don't know what you're spelling because you don't know what the words mean. Humble means not proud. And they be like, yeah, you shouldn't be walking around all proud of yourself and proud of what you accomplished. And you shouldn't be proud. Because they're confusing proud with pride in their ignorance and their own arrogance. But to drive the point home, let's say we could rock with that if proud was a bad thing. But when you do the research on what proud actually means, proud is noble, excellent, and splendid. Not and. I don't want to use the word and because it's not saying it's got to be all three. It's any of these three, right? And or. So it's noble, excellent, splendid, just separated by commas is how it's actually written. Okay? So what does that mean? The Be Humble campaign alienates, ostracizes, demonizes, and outcasts. It makes us, the proud pagans, beyond the city's limits, beyond the normative social influence limitations, right? Again, if you get rid of all of your noble, proud, and excellent people, places, and things in your communities, why do you wake up one day and ask yourself why you have nothing left to be proud of? You were trained to get rid of it all so that you could be better managed. You were trained to keep your mouth shut and not express your feelings of wanting to be great or wanting greatness around you so that you could be accepted. With the rest of the mind control consuming cannon fodder. Powerlessness breeds silence. Insecurities turn into don't rock the boat behavior. Mistakes and ambiguous data go unreported, especially where compliance is rewarded over transparency. It builds undetected until the crisis rises. You know, that's probably why you broke up with your ex. That's probably why you hear the neighbors fighting next door. That's probably why the last person got shot around the corner from you. So these principles I speak, although the variable application may be business focused, these are life lessons from Pasha. That's why your girlfriend works both ways for those who have boyfriends, you know. Want a title. Let me start from the beginning on that so you can get it all together. Let me get big on the screen for you so you can hear it better. That's why your girlfriend wants a title in 2025 instead of a combined goal, most of them. Because it's relationships without performance accountability. Just another stalled deal from US social norms. So, are you one of the silent reasons deals stall? Most brands don't die overnight. They get ghosted too, right? I'm changing the image for you if you wonder. They get ghosted too. Buyers, they get ghosted by their buyers, the talent, and their partners. Now again, translate this to your basketball wives. You know, whatever it is that you watched about relationships that you compare to yours and the community around you. Brands don't die overnight, just like y'all relationships didn't die overnight. You got ghosted by the buyers, those who believed in you. Right? When the talent and the partners. But the question you got to ask is, if that occurs, who was at fault? Because if there's a separation, that means there was never a permanent attraction. So you got to ask yourself, who was the fake in the situation? Was it you building a brand that really didn't match or reflect your personal morals, and you were trying to be something you're not? Maybe not the best thing to do, because eventually you get fatigued and can't sustain the mask? Or was it them, only in it for the fiat currency, only want to stand next to you to be in the photo pics because they know that's going to go on the press release and build their, what was it? The point of the matter is there was a misalignment. And then nobody said anything about it until they couldn't take it no more. So long before the collapse, the tiniest slip in trust is a full stop for deals. And your board of directors knows this. Like, if you get with Pasha, on any level, because I don't do titles, that's fucking Fisher Price high school shit. I ain't had a girlfriend in over 20 years. You either gonna be here tomorrow when I call you, or you not. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? We're not playing these games. But if I text you, because those who don't know toxic workplace, like the list of what makes a toxic workplace is like, when I first saw it, 80% of the list is what I thought you had to go through and experience, just simply saying you clock in somewhere and have a job. I thought that, in my early 20s, it was like, damn, that's what we gotta go through to get it. But you're making 50,000 at 20 in the year 2000, coming from the block. And the biggest bonus for me, aside from the bonus, was being able to bring a pound of weed to work and distribute it to people, because I know that they all get paid on the same day. And then because all the mental illness women dress up and join corporate America, it was like a nightclub. So you could go in and get your bread, get your other bread, yell at the shorties, go have lunch, have a drink, come back. My highest bonus was 1,069% goal. They had to come to me and say, Pasha, we need you to stop because you're making others insecure. Your performance is too great, and you're demoralizing everybody because they don't feel like they can keep pace with you. And I said, look, I'm from the block, but give me some more bread. I'll train 400 of me and we can rock this shit out. They was like, we not gonna promote you and we don't want no superstars. So the whole company suffered I won every competition they put out for 6 years straight. And when I'm gone, nobody's duplicated what I've done. I talk to you guys from experience. So toxic workplace, one of the things on the list is management withholding information from you. Now bleed that over into your personal lives. You send a text and you don't get a response for 2 days. I'm the one that's going to let you know I have a problem with that. And then if you don't respect our relationship, then you don't need to be in the relationship. So there will be people that say, Pasha got rid of me because I didn't reply to him in time, because you're not going to stress me out. We're building America and you watching Days of Our Lives. Like you ain't got shit better to do. So long before a collapse, the tiniest slip in trust, right, is a full stop for deals. Because if they were really connected with me, because we're building America and we got this timeline, this deadline, then I wouldn't have to tell them we don't need delays unnecessarily in communication. So why self-promotion feels weak on LinkedIn and that dumbass alignable platform is because many professionals avoid self-promotion to seem humble. And it signals a lack of confidence in value. It signals cultural fear of rejection, which leads to minimizing presence, relying on relationship instead of performance. This is why tech can't sell trust. Systems don't design checks like my stories do. That's where authority meets action, right? Again, enterprise change leadership with 3M is on my resume. The last project I led for 3M, not worked with, not worked on, not led for 3M, realized $750,000 increased annual sales potential with a one-time investment of $80K. That means that 10 years out, they up $7.5 million off of $80,000 that I spent. Now think about that. Think about that for a moment. When I hit you up, let me get big on the screen. When I hit you up out the blue and say, you know what? I looked at your company. I'm building America. And I want to work with you to make your shit better so that you can become more sustainable, so that our community is more sustainable. And your dumb ass making 40, 50, 60,000, 100,000, 200,000, whatever that number is for you, says, because of how you feel, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need anything. When I increased the value of that production line for 7.5 million over 10 years, 3M, that particular plant, not the company was netting $30 billion a year, but that particular plant, we were netting $40 million with like 30 production employees. Not grossing, we were netting $40 million. Now 7.5 is about 18 point change percent of 40. How you think I look at you talking about your little company doing ABC numbers and you good, when a $40 million net company hands me the keys and I go get them an extra 7.5 and try to bring that knowledge and power home to my community, and your dumb ass talking about, I'm good. I'm good with my 35,000. I'm good. I can make my car payment. I'm good. Because you don't know no better. And you wonder why I walk away to go find a person who appreciates the value. Because we don't have time for I'm good, motherfucker, and then go complain about 80% of their day yesterday was spent complaining about how they not good. I'd be in the meeting with them and go over shit for an hour, and 64% of what they said was they not good. They unsustainable. They codependent. Feelings, right? I was a vice chairman for the M&R chapter for 3M Global. I'm talking on the phone with Singapore. For those that don't know, I know you don't know what you don't know. You see me and you don't know what you don't know. You can't imagine what a 34 1 score is, top 2% in the nation. You don't know what that capability is, doing engineering work on such a level without any degree at all. No degree, because you went to college and you spent $65,000 a year on your degrees or some paper to tell that you can do A, B, C, and D. Which if anybody who's smart or think they smart, why would you spend $400,000 on a piece of paper to go work for somebody else when you could have took the same $400,000 and tried your luck on 10 different businesses? But you see me as the one with the problem. You see why there's a divide between America and the United States? America, we take ownership. The United States wants limited liability. They want somebody to do it for them. So the risk of emotional trust circles, selling based on the way you make me feel, right, creates fragile trust. Poor quality hides behind emotional goodwill until conditions shift. And under scrutiny, feelings-driven trust erodes almost instantly when it finally collapses. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and I was telling him, like, I need you to stop feeling like you need to go cheaper. We did, see my article on cheap. Because what that does is we want to go the opposite way. The United States wants cheap. Because we talked about that. Go read that article. America wants value. And value ain't cheap. That's why your relationships is fucked up, right? Because when a person of high value conversation speaks, you feel robbed of time because you don't have enough. And because you don't have enough time and haven't realized the cause of the fact, you don't change your situation so that you can be free to do whatever you want whenever you want to do it with your time. See, you went and got the $600,000 and $700,000 home that gave you a $4,000 a month mortgage. You got the $1,500 a month car payment, probably two of them. These people, and most of the time, your job, which is problem number one, it's a job, which means you have no real control over it. Ain't really built to handle that. So then you get your wife or you get your husband, they gotta go and do the same thing or something similar. You mad at them because you making $160,000 a year and they only pulling in 45. So you look at them like they beneath you, and you forgot everything you fell in love with because you stressed over trying to put some Forgiatos 28s on a new fishbowl that's only going to be worth $7,000 in 5 years. But you got a ticket that you financed for $138 on it, plus interest. And I'm not in your pocket. I'm not pocket watching. I'm just saying, if you're going to lose $80,000 on something, let's lose it on building America, or the chance of building America. But Pasha, you had a 2014 E350 coupe. You was always doing 135 down, 130 down, 485 and I-77. Yeah, I waited till the shit was 17. My car payment after it was 300s. It was in the 300s. You spend that at the club on drinks. I don't want, and I'm I remember that because I'm sitting next to somebody that's got a Lexus. They're paying $700 a month. Getting calls about it's late. Like, you know what I mean? That's why you're trapped in your relationship with the person you don't want to be with. That's why you can't afford the time to speak to a person like me who's going to talk to you for an hour intensely about what's going to change your motherfucking life. You too stressed about getting back to making a check for something that ain't gonna be there for you in 5 years anyway. You too stressed about checking on a shorty who's gonna leave you in 5 years. What's gonna be here, unless the world blows up, is this land that we on, this nation that we had the opportunity to build. Now, what are you leaving for your future generations? Power or prison? Because the risk of emotional trust circles selling based on how you make people feel creates fragile trust. Poor quality hides behind emotional goodwill until conditions shift. So when you have a business and you say, oh, I'm gonna do it for cheaper, the product's $100, I'm gonna do it for 95. Well, the competition sees that and goes, well, we can do it. We're gonna take a loss, but we're gonna do it for 80 because we want that market share. Then somebody comes along and do it for 64. Somehow somebody starts doing it for 42. Then Tommy goes and knocks off the warehouse, and now he got them for $12.95. Next thing you know, China's sending them over here for $5. Now, what's that mean, Pasha? That means that if you had a product that was $100, it had built into that price the cost to buy the next one or two, the cost to pay for the shipping, the great packaging and presentation. It paid for the person that made it. It paid for the person that shipped it. It paid for this person, and it left profit to go spend with the vendor, the restaurant, the this, the that in your community. The money circulated through your neighborhood. But you want to be cheap. So you took in your race to say how active you were. You went from having a $100 product to selling it for $5. Actually, you not even selling no more. China selling it for $5. And that eroded. That if it goes to China, all the money don't even go. None of the money go to your neighborhood no more. But let's use the $12.99. That's like almost $90 of potential profit and monies, fiat currencies that would have circulated among your neighbors that now it don't exist no more because you just want to say you got it for $12. You selling Rolexes that don't even come in a Rolex box. Then you go to selling knockoff Rolexes because that's more profit for you. Instead of taking the time and we build each other up as a community so we all can invest in each other. That's what we're going to do in America. So ask yourself, are you comfortable in the United States jurisdiction? Or do you want to know the American way? Because under scrutiny, feelings driven trust erodes instantly. And the organizational dynamics look like this: silence, mistaken for loyalty, encourages unchecked cracks. By the time leadership sees damage, deals stall, reputations suffer. So the mechanism of passive silence and deal failure looks like this. You can take a screenshot, or you can go to the website and review the article in its entirety, because those cracks bleed into small and large corporations like these major brands. When you had Enron, the opaque accounting, the erosion time lapse was years, and then the deal impact was collapse. You had Wells Fargo, which complaints, fines, decades was a time, deals canceled. So look at that. All right. Screenshot it, go to the website, check it out. The larger threat, silence and inaction, is systemic erosion of trust. Stalled growth, broken reputation, collapsing revenue. All right. So visit the website, check this out in its entirety. And for those brands that may be in position to do this, right, before the cracks multiply and the silence kills your deals, and secure the engagement that fuses the perception and performance that creates the visible market authority in you. From Pasha Paroh. I'm opening public speaking for the remainder of 2025 and into 2026. The opening is going to be for small and nonprofit events, 18,000 per keynote or workshop. And if you're corporate or industry, we're going to be looking at starting point of 25,000 to 30,000 per engagement, and negotiations from there based on the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. All right. Additional perks, you can go ahead and Google that AI overview, get it PR ready, and let's get your brand lifting. So read the article. Here's my contact information. And if you're a smaller entity and you just like the channel, you want to support the content, here's a button you can click and you can actually contribute to the sustainability of the platform. I'm Pasha Paroh. Thank you for